Hello everyone, welcome to Unit 3, Day 3, as we continue to talk about nutrition and digestion. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so today's aim is how do living things acquire the energy necessary to maintain homeostasis? So as we talk about nutrition in Unit 3, nutrition all the way from the organism level to the cellular level, as we're about to get into cellular respiration today, it's all about the maintenance of this stable internal environment. Homeostasis. So commit this term to memory as it will continue to pop up in every unit. That's what we're all about here in Living Environment, baby. All right, so question number 1. Organisms contain compounds such as proteins, starches, and fats. The chemical bonds in these compounds can be a source of. So what is stored in the chemical bonds? I hope you all remember it's the energy, which is why we like to eat more complex molecules because they have more energy stored in the bonds. All right. And number 2, increased concern over the number of heat treated, what? I think that's supposed to say related, excuse me for having my brain broken for a moment, but increased concern over the number of heat-related illnesses among football players has led to a possible change in uniform design. Shoulder pads were designed that constantly blew cool, dry air underneath the shoulder pads. Tests showed that the use of the device during rest and recovery periods resulted in a reduction of body temperature and heart rate. This new device would help the athlete to maintain homeostasis. So maintain homeostasis specifically with regard to temperature, and maintaining that nice stable temperature helps our bodies maintain a stable internal environment. All right, so now let's go on to part A, review the digestive tract. So hopefully you guys remember the different parts of the digestive tract here. But let's take a look. So we go into the mouth, eat, go through the stomach. We can see, travel through the small intestines, through the large intestines, and all the way out to elimination. And on your day 1 and 2 notes, we go more in depth, but let's talk about the different parts of the digestive system. So we have the mouth. The mouth partakes in chemical via saliva and mechanical digestion via chewing and then churning that happens in our mouths and then later in our stomachs. The liver secretes and produces bile, and that bile helps break down fats. So again, the liver is one of the accessory organs of the digestive system. The stomach partakes in chemical and mechanical digestion, and the acids as well as the digestive enzymes in the stomach help break down proteins. The small intestine partakes in nutrient absorption. So within the small intestines, that's where the nutrients are being taken back into the bloodstream. The pancreas, another accessory organ, partakes in enzyme production and secretion. The esophagus is what connects the mouth and the stomach. Remember that peristalsis occurs in the esophagus, and it is literally what brings food down into the stomach via that process of peristalsis. The large intestine partakes in water absorption. So water is reabsorbed into the body in the large intestine from our waste, and sometimes water is added back into our waste in the large intestine. And then the rectum is the site of waste, so the material that is not used in digestion, storage, and then just before elimination, so removal of that waste. So again, there is the mouth, the esophagus, the liver, the large intestine, the stomach, the pancreas, the small intestine, and the rectum. And here, the liver and the pancreas are accessory organs. So we know that those are accessory organs because food does not pass directly through them, but rather they produce enzymes or gastric juices such as bile that are involved in the process of digestion. Now, this question is not on your paper, but how are the small and large intestines different besides their obvious size difference? So again, they're both involved in absorption, but the small intestine is involved in nutrient absorption. So we're absorbing nutrients to go back into our bodies because at the small intestine is where the end of carbohydrate and lipid digestion occurs. So it's there where the compounds are absorbed via the villi to go into the bloodstream. And the large intestine is the site of water absorption. And we know this question, why is the process of digestion important in producing energy? We know obviously that without our digestive system to break down the organic compounds that we eat, we wouldn't have the smaller parts or their monomers that are able to enter our cells, such as glucose, which is a critical fuel for cellular respiration. And hey, speaking of cellular respiration, we're about to talk about that right now. So let's go ahead and get to it. All right, so had we been in class all together, you would be reading this with your classmates, but instead you're reading it with me on Zoom. All right, so oh dear, what I'm showing you on my screen doesn't match what you have on your handout. One moment. All right, ladies and gentlemen, sorry about that. So, Part B, individual practice. The role of the mighty mitochondria. All living things require energy. But how do living things acquire the energy necessary to maintain homeostasis? Most cells get energy in one of two ways, from food molecules or from the sun. So we know food molecules, that's how we get our energy. So that's heterotrophs. And then from the sun, that's autotrophs. So we're talking about producers, or in other words, plants. But the mitochondria is present in both. So the mitochondria works in all living things, regardless of if they produce their own energy or they acquire it from other living sources. Food provides things with the chemical building blocks they need to grow and reproduce. Food serves as a source of raw materials from which the cells of the body can synthesize new molecules. Oh, shoot. Nearly all eukaryotic cells, including plants, contain mitochondria. Right? So there's our mitochondria. Isn't it neat? Nearly all eukaryotic cells, including plants, contain mitochondria. Mitochondria are the organelles that convert the chemical energy stored in food into compounds that are more convenient for the cell to use. We're talking about ATP, baby. This process of creating energy occurs as a result of a process known as cellular respiration. Cellular respiration is a process that releases energy by breaking down food molecules in the presence of oxygen. So, how is the mitochondria involved in the process of releasing energy? Mitochondria is the organelle where cellular respiration occurs. And cellular respiration is the process that releases energy from breaking down food molecules in the presence of oxygen, which RE, respiration, RE releases energy in the form of ATP. All right, let's go on. Sorry, that looks a little crazy there, but the mitochondria is where cellular respiration happens, and cellular respiration is the process that releases energy by breaking down food molecules in the presence of oxygen. And we're going to talk more about the chemical formula for that reaction during this unit. I think during today's notes, we'll touch on it and we'll expand upon it tomorrow and the following day. So, introduction to cellular respiration. Autotrophic organisms, such as plants and algae, can trap the energy in sunlight through the process of photosynthesis and store it in the chemical bonds of carbohydrate molecules. That's glucose. So in photosynthesis, plants make glucose. What? That's cool. The carbohydrate formed through the process of photosynthesis is known as glucose. Other types of heterotrophic organisms, such as animals, are unable to synthesize their own nutrients and therefore rely on the carbohydrates formed in plants. So we have to eat plants in order to live. This means that heterotrophs must eat plants and other animals in order to obtain the energy necessary for their metabolic processes. So green plants can synthesize their own glucose. And then that glucose is used as the fuel for cellular respiration, right? So green plants, they just need the sun. The oxygen and carbon dioxide in the air, and they are able to live life. They are able to live life without the input of other organisms because they have this cyclical process that occurs. So now we're getting like smaller. This is like the big plant, but within the plant we have the mitochondria and we have the chloroplast. And when oxygen is released as a byproduct of photosynthesis, it can fuel cellular respiration in the mitochondria. And then when carbon dioxide is released as a byproduct of cellular respiration, it can fuel the process of photosynthesis. As well, the glucose that is produced by photosynthesis then fuels the process of cellular respiration. And this is a cycle that goes on inside of green plants. This cycle also occurs in a more broad way in our entire ecosystem, where autotrophs or producers recycle the carbon that is excreted or released into the atmosphere. And this relationship between the mitochondria and the photosynthesis is as well parallel to the relationship between producers and the ecosystem at large. So the question asks, some organisms perform photosynthesis to produce glucose, while other organisms, such as heterotrophs, cannot undergo the process of photosynthesis. What must heterotrophic organisms do in order to obtain energy? We have to eat. Heterotrophs must eat because we must consume energy from other sources. And that's what heterotroph means. It means energy from somewhere else. Whereas autotroph means energy from self, produced by photosynthesis. Let's look at this. This is autotroph. This is a plant versus heterotroph, and that's us. And we have to eat because we can't make our own glucose by photosynthesis. Animals and other organisms obtain the energy available in carbohydrates through the process of cellular respiration. What is the purpose of cellular respiration, and why is it essential to the survival of a species that cannot synthesize their own food? So we can utilize the energy available in carbohydrates through the process of cellular respiration. So respiration breaks down organic molecules in the presence of oxygen into a form usable by the cell to carry out our life processes. And this is essential to the survival of a species that cannot synthesize its own food, because otherwise we would not be able to utilize the energy stored in the chemical bonds of our food. So what is the purpose of cellular respiration? It is to turn the organic molecules that we eat into usable energy utilized by our cells. And it is essential to the survival of without cellular respiration. No matter how much we ate, our bodies would not be able to obtain any energy. All right, so cells take in glucose, and through a complex series of metabolic processes, the mitochondria will release the energy in the form of a molecule known as adenosine triphosphate. The ATP produced can then be used for the processes in the cell that require energy, such as a battery powers a mechanical device. So that's the powerhouse of the cell, baby. ATP. And we know that's energy. Oh, yeah. During the process of cellular respiration, carbon dioxide, water, and ATP are produced. Plant cells can then utilize the products of respiration to begin the process of photosynthesis. Oh, yeah, and we just talked a little bit about that, and we're going to expand upon that in Unit 9 when we talk more about ecology and the broader ecosystem. So, number 4, how is glucose involved in the process of cellular respiration? Glucose is the fuel for the process. So, we need to eat glucose or eat compounds that contain glucose in order to get is the food for the that looks like it says food, but fuel for the process. And we're going to talk more about the formula involved in cellular respiration in your next day of notes, Unit 3, Day 4. We're going to look in depth at cellular respiration and at the formula, exactly how does this process occur? And the question below asks, what are the products of cellular respiration? And identify one molecule that is used to store the energy being released during the process of cellular respiration. So the products we have here, it says carbon dioxide, water, and ATP. CO2, H2O, and ATP. And ATP is the one we need, right? So the second part of the question says one molecule that is used to store the energy. That one molecule is ATP. Is where energy is stored. And we're going to go more in depth into this in our next day of notes. But what we have now, we've sort of outlined the process, but let's talk about it, is we have oxygen and glucose go into this cellular respiration, and coming out on the other hand, and on the other end, we produce CO2, H2O, and the all-important ATP. All right. So please don't forget to go ahead and complete your exit ticket. But today we talked about Unit 3, Day 3, and our aim was how do living things acquire the energy necessary to maintain homeostasis. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so I hope you enjoyed that. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to submit your exit tickets, and I will see you all tomorrow on Zoom. Bye, guys. Have a super fantastic day. Bye.